What if I told you that your way of speaking today could be sabotaging your opportunities, your relationships, and even your dreams without realizing it? Imagine that each person who crosses your way is a door to something extraordinary, and that you may be letting those doors close simply because you do not know how to act in a simple conversation. Think it. How many times have you moved away from a conversation with the feeling of having lost something? As if there had been a potential that you have not known how to take advantage. Maybe it was in a networking event in which you met someone influential, but the conversation did not curdle. Perhaps it was a fortuitous encounter with a neighbor who could have given rise to a friendship. Or maybe it was a business meeting in which you had all the necessary qualifications, but for some reason you could not establish the connection you needed. The truth is that most of us are sleepwalks in our conversations. We are in automatic pilot, doing the same as always, saying the same as always, asking the same boring questions as everyone. And in doing so, we are losing the extraordinary power that resides in each of our interactions. In this video, we will explore the revolutionary Dale Carnegie method to convert each dialogue into an unforgettable moment. I will show you how to apply proven and contrasted principles that have already changed the lives of millions of people around the world, and how they can multiply your influence, open opportunities, and create genuine connections that will last a lifetime. If you want to communicate better, be more memorable, and earn more respect and admiration, make sure you subscribe to the channel right now and activate notifications. Because every week I bring practical strategies to transform your personal and professional life. Believe me, what you are about to learn will change your way of seeing each conversation for the rest of your life. Let's start with a fundamental truth that most people never realize. Every conversation you have is actually a wasted potential. I know it sounds hard, but listen to me. We live in a world in which the average person has thousands of conversations throughout their lives. But most of these interactions are completely forgettable. They are superficial exchanges that achieve nothing more to fill the silence. Think of any day. You probably talk to your cafeteria waiter. You exchange courtesies with a partner in the elevator. Talks briefly with a neighbor. You may talk on the phone with a friend or family. But if I asked you to tell me something significant that has left any of these conversations, could you do it? Probably not. Because most of us work in autopilot in conversations. When we are in automatic pilot, we are not really present. We are thinking about our next appointment, looking at the mobile or mentally rehearsing what we are going to say below, instead of really listening to what the other person is sharing. We ask generic questions such as, "How are you?" regardless of the answer. We give standard answers as, "I'm fine," even when we are not. This automatic pilot mode makes us lose incredible opportunities that hide in full view. Every person you know knows things that you don't know. It has experiences that you have not had. It has connections that you do not have. It has problems that you could solve and solutions to the problems you face. But when you are not fully present in the conversation, you lose all these possibilities. So what really means acting as if each conversation was the most important of your life? It means addressing each interaction with the mentality that the person in front of you could at that time could be the key to your next advance. It means believing that what they have to say is important, and that what you share could also be for them. This does not mean being false or excessively dramatic. It means being genuinely interested and genuinely present. It means recognizing that behind each casual encounter, there is a human being with hopes, dreams, fears, and stories that could fascinate yourself if you took the time to discover them. Carnegie understood this better than almost anyone. Its principles were not limited to being friendly or educated. It was about taking advantage of the fundamental human need to feel valued and understood. When you make someone feel like the most important person in the room, something magical happens. It opens. Share more. It reminds you, and he wants to help you succeed. Let's deepen the first principle of Carnegie, which is the basis of any significant conversation: the power of active listening. Most people think they know how to listen, but the truth is that most of us are very bad in that. We do not listen to understand, but to answer. We expect our turn to speak instead of truly absorbing what the other person says. Listening actively means lending someone all your attention without distractions. It means saving the phone, looking into the eyes and focusing completely on their words, its tone and body language. It means asking follow-up questions that show that you are not only listening to them, but you really understand them. When you practice active listening, you make the other person feel as if she were the only person in the world at that time. This creates an incredibly powerful connection because, in our distracted and multitasking world, paying all your attention to someone has become a weird and beautiful gift. But active listening is just the beginning. Carnegie also emphasized the fundamental importance of remembering names and details. It may seem insignificant, but creates an instant connection that most people never experience. When you remember someone's name and use it in a conversation, you are sending a powerful message that this person is important for you. The same principle applies to remembering details about your life, your interests, your challenges, or your goals. When you follow up with someone and refer to something specific that told you weeks or months ago, you show that the conversation was significant enough to remember it and care. Most people are very bad remembering names because they really don't strive to remember them. They are too focused on causing a good impression or thinking about what they will say below. But if you treat each conversation as the most important of your life, you will naturally pay more attention to these details, because you will recognize its importance. The key is to repeat the name of the person immediately after it appears. Then, use your name at least 2 or 3 more times during the conversation. This repetition helps to fix it in your memory and, at the same time, makes the person feel valued and recognized. But remembering names is just an aspect of showing genuine interest. Carnegie taught that people are fundamentally interested in themselves, in their problems, in their objectives, and in their experiences. When this natural interest is used, conversations become much more interesting and significant for both parties. Showing genuine interest does not mean being intrusive or intrusive. It means asking reflexive questions and paying attention to the answers. It means following the thread of what someone is sharing and deepening the issues that clearly care. For example, instead of asking, "What do you do?" which is a generic question that everyone does, you could ask, "What is the most exciting project you are working on right now?" This question invites you to share something you are passionate about, instead of just reciting the name of your job. Or instead of, "How about the weekend?" you could ask, "What was the highlight of the weekend?" This encourages him to share something positive and significant, instead of just giving a generic response as, "Was fine." The emotional impact of words cannot be underestimated. Every word you choose, every question you ask, every answer you give, or create a connection, or break it. Carnegie understood that people will forget what you said and what you did, but will never forget how you made them feel. One of the most powerful tools to create an emotional connection is the use of short stories. Human beings are scheduled to respond to stories because they help us make sense of complex information and connect it with our own experiences. When you share a relevant story or ask someone to share yours, you are creating a much deeper level of commitment than you could achieve only with facts or opinions. But it's not just about the words you use. Your tone, your posture, and your visual contact communicate a lot about how much you value the conversation and the person you are talking to. When your body language coincides with your words, people can feel your authenticity. When there is a disconnection, they feel it immediately, even if they cannot articulate why. Carnegie taught that maintaining visual contact shows respect and interest, but it is important to do it naturally, not in a way that is intense or uncomfortable. Similarly, leaning slightly forward when someone is talking shows that you are interested, while crossing their arms or looking around the room transmits the message that you would prefer to be in another place. Now let's talk about the art of asking questions that open doors instead of closing them. A wrong question can end a conversation instantly, while an accurate question can transform an informal talk into a significant connection that gives rise to opportunities, friendships, or collaborations. The questions that end the dialogue are usually closed questions that can be answered with a simple yes or no, or superficial questions that do not invite to share more deeply. Questions like, "Do you like your job?" or "Are you here?" They can initiate a conversation, but do not create the conditions for a significant exchange. On the other hand, questions that open doors are open questions that invite you to tell stories. They focus on what matters most to the person. Questions like, "What initially attracted you to your field?" or "What has surprised you most to live in this city?" They encourage people to share experiences, emotions, and opinions, instead of only facts. The best questions usually start with what or how, since these words naturally lead to more detailed answers. What is the most difficult part of your work? How did you discover your passion for that? What advice would you give to someone who has just started in your sector? These questions show that you are interested in your knowledge and experience. But even more important than the questions you ask is how you answer the answers. This is where most people fail loudly. They ask a good question, they get an interesting answer, and then they immediately talk about themselves or ask a question that has nothing to do. This transmits the message that you were not really interested in your answer, but you just tried to fill the time. On the other hand, When someone gives you a significant answer, deepens. Ask follow-up questions that you show that you are listening and that you want to understand more. If they mention a challenge they face, ask them what they have tried so far or what they think could help them. If they share something that excites them, ask them what is most excited or what inspired them to get involved. This leads us to the saboteurs of the conversation that most people do not even realize that they are committing. These are subtle errors that move away people and end the possibility of establishing a deeper connection. One of the greatest saboteurs is to focus everything on you. Someone shares a challenge he faces, and you immediately intervene with your own similar story instead of asking more about yours. Someone mentions an achievement, and you overcome it with your own achievement instead of celebrating yours. This egocentric approach makes people feel ignored and unimportant. Another important sabotage is to give unrequested advice. Someone shares a problem and you immediately begin to solve it for him, instead of simply listening and recognizing his experience. While your intentions can be good, most people do not want solutions of casual strangers or acquaintances. They want to feel understood and validated. Interrupting is another factor that kills the conversation, but it is so common that most people do not even realize that they are doing it. When you interrupt someone in the middle of a phrase, you are basically telling him that what you have to say is more important than what he was sharing. This destroys trust and connection instantly. The good news is that when you realize that you are making these mistakes, you can often recover recognizing what has happened and again focusing your attention on the other person. A simple, "Sorry, I have interrupted you. Please continue," or "I realize that I just focused the conversation on me. Tell me more about your situation." You can run the conversation. But the real ability is to learn to recognize when you are losing someone's attention and know how to recover it. The people's attention capacity is shorter than ever, and if you do not involve them effectively, their mind will begin to wander, or begin to look for an exit to the conversation. The signs that you are losing someone include shorter answers, looking at the phone or looking around the room, giving generic answers or starting to finish the conversation. When you notice these signs, it is time to change your approach immediately. The fastest way to recover someone's attention is to ask him for something that is clearly interested. Pay attention to what illuminates when you talk. Maybe they are your children, your hobby, your business, or a cause that you are passionate about. When you redirect the conversation to your area of interest, you will often see that your energy returns immediately. This leads us to one of the most powerful applications of the principles of Carnegie. Convert conversations into opportunities. Every significant conversation has the potential to lead to something else, be it a friendship, a business opportunity, a collaboration, or simply a valuable connection that pays off in the future. The key to converting an informal talk into something more substantial is to recognize the moment in which there is a mutual interest and connection, and be willing to take the next step. This may mean suggesting the conversation, having coffee, connecting on social networks, presenting someone who can help them, or simply exchange contact information with the intention of contacting. Most people are afraid to take this step because they don't want to seem insistent or presumptuous. But when you have had a really significant conversation with someone, that person is normally as interested as you in continuing the connection. The key is to make the suggestion seem natural and valuable, instead of forced or selfish. For example, instead of saying, "We should have coffee one day," which is vague and probably forgot, you could say, "I really liked listening to your work in sustainable design. I would love to continue this conversation and share some resources that I think will be interesting. Would you like to have coffee next week?" This approach is specific, refers to something significant of your conversation, offers them value, and includes a next clear step. It is much more likely to give rise to a real monitoring meeting than a generic suggestion, but the conversation does not end when you separate. The follow-up is where most potential connections die because people forget to do it wrong, or wait too long. Carnegie understood that to stay in the minds of others, it is necessary to maintain constant and reflective communication over time. The most effective monitoring occurs between 24 and 48 hours after the initial conversation. It can be a simple email or message that refers to something specific that you have discussed, and includes an article, resource, or relevant presentation. The key is to provide value to the time the conversation is remembered. For example, "Hi Sarah, it was a pleasure to meet you yesterday at the conference. I really enjoyed our conversation about the challenges of expanding a business-based business. I thought that this article on systems automation could be useful. The author faced similar challenges to those described and found some creative solutions. I would love to know your opinion if you have the opportunity to read it." This message is personal, valuable, and opens the door to a continuous dialogue without being insistent or demanding. It shows that you paid attention during the conversation and that you are genuinely interested in being useful. The long-term objective is to build a network of significant relationships instead of just collecting contacts. This means staying in contact periodically, celebrating their successes, offering help when possible, and making presentations that can benefit them. When you add value constantly to people's lives through your communication, they will naturally want to correspond and help you when the opportunity arises. But perhaps the most important aspect of the Carnegie method is the change of mentality it requires. When you really believe that each conversation could be the most important of your life, you address each interaction with curiosity, respect, and genuine interest. You stop seeing conversations as obligations to be fulfilled, and you start to see them as opportunities to discover something incredible. This change transforms everything into your way of communicating. You become more present, more attractive, and more memorable. People like to talk to you because you make them feel valued and understood. They remind you because you took the time to see them really, and connect with them on a human level. The domino effects of this approach accumulate over time. The person with whom you have a significant conversation today could introduce you to someone who tomorrow becomes an intimate friend. The co-worker with whom you really connect during a brief talk could recommend you for the work of your dreams next month. The stranger with whom you start conversation in a cafeteria could become a partner, mentor, or friend for a lifetime. But beyond these external benefits, treating each conversation as something important enriches your own life immeasurable. You will discover fascinating stories. You will learn new perspectives. You will get valuable knowledge and build a diverse network of relationships that will make your world bigger and interesting. You will also develop confidence in your communication skills, because you will see how positively people respond when you pay them all your attention and show a genuine interest. This creates a virtuous circle in which each successful conversation makes you feel more comfortable and effective in the next. The practical application of these principles begins with your next conversation, whether with a relative, a co-worker, a stranger, or a friend. Abadala, as if that person were the key to your next advance. Load your entire attention. Ask reflexive questions. Actively listen to your answers. It shows a genuine interest in their experiences and perspectives. Remember your name and use it. Follow up on the things you have told you. Look for ways to add value to your life, either through resources, presentations, or simply recognition and support. Treat them as if they were the most interesting people you have met throughout the day, because it is very possible that they are. Practice these skills constantly, and you will begin to notice changes immediately. People will answer you differently. The conversations will be more interesting and significant. Opportunities will begin to appear that did not exist before. Your network will grow not only in size, but also in quality and depth. And most importantly, you will discover that the world is full of fascinating people with incredible stories, ideas, and experiences to share. All you have to do is take the time to really listen to them and connect with them. If you start treating each conversation as if it were the most important of your life, you will notice that your network of contacts, your opportunities, and your quality of life grow exponentially. The person next to your side could be the catalyst of your next great progress, but only if you are present enough to recognize it and skillful enough to act accordingly. Remember, Dale Carnegie principles work because they take advantage of the fundamental human needs of recognition, understanding, and connection. When you satisfy these needs through your conversations, people naturally want to meet you, help you, and keep in touch with you over time. The time to start is now. Your next conversation is waiting for you, and it could be the most important of your life if you address it with the right mentality and skills. Do not miss another opportunity because you are too distracted, too focused on yourself, or too scared to really connect with another person. If this video has seemed interesting, give it like, eat it, and share it with someone who needs to learn to really connect. Tell me in the comments sometime when a single conversation changed your life, or share your biggest challenge when connecting with new people. And, of course, subscribe to the channel so as not to miss the next videos, because here each conversation counts, and each connection matters. Your future self will thank you for the relationships you build, and the opportunities you think with the simple fact of treating each person you know as if you could change your life. Because the truth is that they can do it.